When my husband and I went to Mexico a few years ago, okay, wait, side note, it was 12 years ago. Does that happen to anyone else? These bookmark life events or trips or whatever in our lives all feel like a few years ago, and actually they were a decade or more ago. Just me? Okay, moving on. When we went to Mexico, we were with a group for my sister's wedding. Whenever we'd run into others from our group around the resort, they'd say, "Hey, what are you doing? Come to the pool with us. Come have a drink with us." And we'd always say no because we had a plan and an itinerary of stuff that we wanted to do. And we didn't have time to relax right then because we were off to some outing. How ridiculous. But eventually I said to my husband, maybe we should schedule some free time so that when we're asked to do something spontaneous, we can pretend like we're actually spontaneous people. I have that same mindset at Disneyland. Mostly because I don't get to go near as often as I'd like. Every other day would be perfect, thank you very much. So whenever I'm there, I feel like I have to maximize my time and get as much done as possible. That is one approach you can take, and I've enjoyed every trip immensely that I've done that. But there is something to be said for following the Disney winds and just taking things as they come, sitting and relaxing, people watching, and just not having a plan. Or do a mix of both. The best of both worlds. That sounds like a great approach to me. Of course, it will all depend on your personal preferences, your party size and type, your goals, etc. Are you trying to maximize all of the most popular attractions? Work around a baby or toddler's schedule? Are you by yourself or with a big group of friends or family? Will you be getting Lightning Lane Multipass or no? There are so many things to consider, and I can't tell you what will work for your trip exactly, but I can make some general recommendations when it comes to maximizing your time. And if you just want to follow the Disney winds, you don't need me telling you what to do. Just relax and let the park tell you what to do. Usually people want to get a lot of rides done. If that's one of your goals, your best 2 times of the day to get the most rides done are the last 2 or 3 hours of the night before the park closes and first thing in the morning when the park opens at Rope Drop. In the morning, those first 2 hours are golden times to avoid the biggest crowds. To optimize your morning, aim to get to the Esplanade, which is the area right outside the front gates, before 7:30 in the morning. That's when they'll usually start letting guests into the park. Then you can make your way to the hub, which is the area in front of the castle, to wait for them to drop the rope to various lands. Remember, on some days hotel guests can get in a half an hour early, so if you see people in the park ahead of you, don't panic. You'll still see a good time savings, but to avoid this, plan your rope drop on days that are opposite of when hotel guests can get early entry. The rope will drop at 8 a.m. or whenever the park officially opens, and then you can walk, don't run, to your first attraction. The other best time is the last 2 to 3 hours before park closing, especially if it closes at midnight. Just keep in mind, on days that there are fireworks, Mickey's Toontown and Fantasyland are both closed during and until after the fireworks. I think they reopen at around 10 at night. There's a sort of mini rope drop for this reopening too, so you might be able to get a shorter time in line if you're waiting for the land to reopen. Anyway, here are some recommended rope drop strategies. Whether you will or won't be getting Lightning Lane Multipass, if you want to get a lot of those types of rides in during your day, it's best to start the day off with Lightning Lane attractions. If you don't have Lightning Lane, you'll beat the crowds who will fill up the queues later in the day, and if you do have Lightning Lane, you can ride them once in the morning with shorter lines and once later in the day with Lightning Lane. So with that in mind, it's best not to book your first Lightning Lane rides with return times before 10 a.m., which you will have an hour to use, so your return time is actually between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. So, with all of that in mind, you would want to start off with Space Mountain, then the Matterhorn, Big Thunder Mountain, and Indiana Jones. It's not good to go to Big Thunder right away because they don't start running more than one train until a little later in the day, closer to 9, so you could still be stuck in a longer queue than you were anticipating. Of course, Indiana Jones breaks down often, so make sure it's open before you beeline over there. After that, you could do Pirates or Haunted Mansion, since you're in the area. Right now, at the end of summer 2024, the Haunted Mansion is on virtual queue, which you can book for free on your phone at 2 points during the day, at 7 a.m. and 12 noon. You can access that on the Disneyland app, on the bottom right, and then you scroll down and look for virtual queues. You don't need to be scanned into the park to book this, and it doesn't affect Lightning Lane at all. You won't get to pick your return time for this, but by early 2025 it should be on regular Lightning Lane again, so that's why I'm including it in this section. Anyway, after you do Pirates or Haunted Mansion, it should be just about 10 a.m. and you could check the app, make sure Rise of the Resistance is open, and then head over there. Another day on your trip, you could rope drop Fantasyland. A lot of people like to rope drop Peter Pan. I'd only suggest doing this if you can meet 2 conditions. 1, make sure it is not early entry for Disneyland for hotel guest day. And 2, be at the front gates to Disneyland in the Esplanade by 7 a.m., not 7:30. So essentially you're rope dropping the rope drop. Basically, you want to be at the front of the line when they drop the rope for you to get into Fantasyland. If you can do that, then you can probably get into the Peter Pan queue and on the ride quickly, and it's worth it. But if you're at the back of the rope drop line, you'll probably not beat the crowd for Peter Pan. You might manage to get, say, a 20-minute wait, which is shorter than the usual 30 to 40 minutes, but just don't have your hopes set on this being a huge time savings. You would be wasting a lot of valuable time that you could be doing 3 or more other Fantasyland rides instead. I like rope dropping Alice in Wonderland because that line can easily get to 40 minutes during the day, and you can get a 5-minute line by rope dropping it. After that, I usually go on Dumbo, Snow White's Enchanted Wish, Pinocchio's Daring Journey, and then Casey Jr.'s Circus Train before re-evaluating and seeing what ones I want to do next. Keep in mind, sometimes Casey Jr. runs 2 trains and sometimes it only runs 1. If the line goes outside of the chained queue area and there's only 1 train running, wait until a shorter line or until they have 2 trains running. It's best to wait a little bit before you do Storybook Canal boats because they don't have all the boats running right away. Anyway, you can knock out many, if not all on a less busy day, Fantasyland rides in the first 2 to 3 hours of park opening. You can also get a lot done here at night, but they do close Fantasyland during the fireworks, so you won't get access until 10 at night. But if the park closes at midnight, those last 2 hours can be a great option if your group can stay up that late. I mentioned Rise of the Resistance before, but here's some more info on it. Lots of people want to ride it first thing in the morning, but this isn't always the best strategy. Often, it isn't even open until 9 or 10, so you need to listen to cast members at Rope Drop to hear what they're saying about it. But even if it is open, 1, if it's an early entry day at Disneyland for hotel guests, they can rope drop from Fantasyland, so they get a head start on you. And 2, even if there is no lineup at all, it takes a minimum of 20 minutes to go through the queue and go on the ride, and chances are you'll still have a 10 to 20 minute wait at minimum, bringing your time to 30 to 40 minutes to go on the ride. That's a lot of time in the golden hour that you could have gotten 2 or 3 other Fantasyland rides done. A better time for this ride is at 9 or 10 a.m. or at around 7 at night, sometimes a bit later. Another good time to ride is right after the ride comes back online after a breakdown. Breakdowns are for a minimum of 45 minutes, but if you can jump in the queue within 15 minutes of the ride being back online, you'll save a lot of time. Of course, you'll have to hang around close to the ride, making yourself available to jump in line, so that, in and of itself, takes time. But with all of that being said, if Rise of the Resistance is your top priority and they're letting guests on it right away at park opening, by all means, do this ride first. Also, keep in mind that this ride closes before the park closes, usually at around 10 p.m. Or you could opt for an entirely different strategy. Rope drop Starbucks on Main Street and avoid the 40-minute lineup that accumulates by 8, and sit with your coffee and watch everyone else scramble to make the most of their time. Then you could meander to the railroad and take that around the park. That's the way Walt intended it, you know. And relax and follow the Disney winds to see what you want to do, and don't even worry about park domination. For rope dropping DCA, the same rules apply. Get to the front gates in the Esplanade before 7:30, know which days have early entry for hotel guests, and when they let you in, listen to the cast members. Often people want to rope drop Radiator Springs Racers, but it could be closed until 9 or 10. If it is open and you can rope drop it, great, go for it. It's not as long of a queue and no pre-show like Rise of the Resistance. You won't eat up more than 10 to 20 minutes if it's open and if you're close to the front of the rope drop queue. Another option is to try riding it after 6 or even 8 p.m. Often during this time of day, the posted wait time is much longer than how long you will actually wait. Definitely avoid it between 11 a.m. and 6 at night. The only way to actually skip the line is to buy an individual lightning lane, or you can use single rider for a shorter line. Another DCA rope drop strategy is to rope drop Guardians of the Galaxy, then head to Web Slingers, And then check the app to see if Radiator Springs Racers is open, and if it's not too long of a wait, head there next. A third DCA rope drop strategy is to rope drop Pixar Pier, starting with the Incredicoaster or Toy Story Midway Mania. Or you could do Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Soarin', and then head over to Pixar Pier. You can definitely get all of the rides on Pixar Pier and Paradise Gardens Park done in the first 2 to 3 hours of the day on a rope drop morning, and it's a wonderful feeling to have knocked off that whole section of the park. Just be sure to check the app to make sure that the ride you want to go to first is actually open as you're walking to it, and have a backup plan in case it isn't. This is especially important for rides that are farther apart than other ones that you want to go to. For example, if you want to go to Guardians of the Galaxy, and then the next ride you want to enjoy is at Pixar Pier, and then Guardians isn't open for some reason, you've wasted a lot of precious time walking all that way to have to head to the opposite end of the park after. After those first 2 to 3 hours have passed and the parks start getting busier, you can stop and grab a bite to eat and then start using Lightning Lane Multipass for the rest of the day, filling in the gaps with non-Lightning Lane Multipass rides. Remember, you can book another Lightning Lane Multipass once you've scanned into the Lightning Lane Multipass ride, or after 2 hours have passed, whichever comes first. I like to set an alarm so that I don't let too much time go by and miss my 2-hour mark. You can also try to modify a return time for an earlier time if you're having to book too far out. I have a whole video on this that you can see if you click the link above. Use the app to check wait times for attractions around the park. A few tips: if you see a low wait time for a ride and you're in the vicinity, head there as fast as you can. If you're on the other end of the park though, don't bother. By the time you get there, it will have a higher than usual wait time because everyone is thinking what you're thinking. Also, just take a look at the lineups. The app or wait times posted outside aren't always up to the minute correct. Any line that is full of Lightning Lane guests, either multi-pass or single pass, are going to be long wait lines as they give priority entry to those guests who have paid for Lightning Lane. So if there are a ton of Lightning Lane guests in line, they will clear most or all of those guests out before allowing regular standby into the ride. So even if a ride has a low wait time posted, if you see a ton of Lightning Lane people in the lineup, it's probably going to actually be longer than the wait time posted because they're going to clear out all those people before they let in standby. Just keep that in mind. Also, if there is a ride that doesn't have Lightning Lane and you can see the whole queue, say for Astro Orbiters for example, you can do some simple queue math by just observing. If there are 12 ride vehicles and they fit about 20 guests per cycle, you can time an entire cycle of the ride and say it takes about 4 minutes, and then you estimate 100 people in line, well then it will take about 20 minutes until it's your turn to get on. This is starting to sound a lot like one of those word problems in math where someone is buying 60 watermelons for some reason. Hey, if your kids are missing school to be at Disneyland, have them do your Q math for some Disney learning.
It's fun and educational.
FreshBaked is a Disney YouTube channel, and many of his videos are about ride strategies and queue science and the current state of the park. I find his videos helpful to watch before trips so that I know what I'm getting into with the current crowds, events, etc. He just posted a super helpful video on August 17th, 2024 called Our Guided Tour of Disneyland, How to Manage Every Attraction at the Park. In it, he teaches what to look for in every queue before you get in line. This is so helpful for everyone, but especially for those not planning on getting Lightning Lane Multipass. I got that Astro Orbiters Q math from him in another recent video. SoCal Disney Dad has these state of the park types of videos as well. I've also used the Touring Plans app. It's very helpful for creating custom plans for the day if you're a planner like me. It costs about $15 for 1 year of the app's service. Disney also has a free Genie service on their app to help you plan your day, but I wouldn't use it. It's completely useless. You can get in line for a ride right up until the park closes, so if you really want to ride something and it's 11:59 and the park closes at midnight, jump in line quick and you'll still get to ride it. I've even found that the wait times at the end of the night are usually higher on the app or sign outside the ride than they actually are, so your wait probably won't be very long. So jump in line and squeeze in every minute of fun that you can. I like to have a general plan in mind for lands that I'd like to cover each day so that I'm not walking back and forth from one end of the park to the other, but that's a personal preference. You can usually, if it's not super busy, get all of DCA done in one day in Disneyland in 2 or 3 days, or at least most of the rides, maybe not everything like the canoe and boat ships on the rivers of America. But don't think that you'll be bored or run out of things to do if you want to take longer. For one thing, you can always ride your favorite rides more than once. On a 5-day trip, my family usually rides Guardians of the Galaxy and the Incredicoaster 4 or 5 times each. And at DCA, there are a bunch of shows that you can see that are great for taking breaks or filling in time while waiting for Lightning Lane Multipass return times. Hollywoodland alone has Turtle Talk with Crush, the Animation Academy, PhilharMagic, and the Sorcerer's Workshop, which is not a show but a hands-on experience teaching a little bit about animation. There's also the Disney Junior Dance Party, which is great for little kids to jump around and dance and get their sillies out. Avengers Campus has the Amazing Spider-Man Show, the Guardians of the Galaxy Dance-Off, the Dora Milaje, and the Avengers Assemble Show. Carsland has a lighting ceremony at sunset each night. Just check what time sunset is and come about 10 minutes before to the traffic light area. It's just a little lighting ceremony with dancing and music, and it's so cute and fun. World of Color is a great show to see, and there are also often seasonal shows, parades, live music, etc., depending on what event or festival is going on at DCA. I say all of that to say that you can very easily spend 2 days at DCA if you want to see more than just the rides. Of course, Disneyland has its fair share of shows too. There's live music and entertainment all around the parks, like the Dapper Dans, the Disneyland Band, the Straw Hatters, and the Pearly Band, who also do a cute little show in front of the castle with Mary Poppins and Bert. There are also little cavalcades that go down Main Street. There are shows at the Royal Theatre, Tangled and Beauty and the Beast. There's also Fantasmic Nightly, fireworks, or projections every night. Sometimes the fireworks are just on the weekends. The Magic Happens Parade, the Bootstrappers, and the Jambalaya Jazz Band, and just lots of opportunities to be entertained besides rides all throughout the park. And of course, they have their seasonal entertainment offerings as well, such as the Christmas Fantasy Parade, or Halloween, or special things for things like Pixar Fest that happened this past summer. So, whether you dominate the park or let the Disney winds guide you, or a little bit of both, it's up to you. And if you make a plan, mentally prepare yourself to adapt or change it. I find that to be a very helpful tip for type A people like myself. Have a plan, but also be mentally prepared to be flexible. And even as a planner, I enjoy Disney Wednesdays myself too. I had a trip this year with a group of friends, and we spent a lot of time together on Dapper Day. We couldn't all be together each day of the trip because of the various travel schedules, but this day we planned on doing together. We also had other pockets of time together throughout the trip too, and they were just some of the best times I've ever had at a Disney park. No real plan, just laughter, joy, and memories to last a lifetime. Leave time for that. In our next video, we'll talk about rides, the reason we're all here, so don't miss that one. And if this is too much to remember, grab a copy of my ebook when it's released in early September. It's packed with everything you'll learn in these videos, plus extra secrets, tips, and some Disney history to make your trip even more magical. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.